Okay, these are the notes for multiplying imaginary numbers. And this is just going to help you to review. Then you'll have an assignment right after this, so just make sure you check the assignment folder. So I'm going to go over some of these problems here just to give you some practice, probably go up to maybe number 10. But again, when you are multiplying imaginary numbers, the key rule is I squared is always equal to -1. So anytime you get I squared, change it to -1. If you think back to the chart, I to the 0, anything to the 0 power is 1. I to the first is just equal to I. I squared is -1, and I to the third is -I. And it always makes that circle. All right? But the main one is I squared equals -1. That's what you'll see the most. All right, so I'm just going to go through some of these. So this is -4i to the third power, so that would be -4i times -4i times -4i. So I got a -4 times a -4, that's 16. And 16 times a -4 should be -64. I times I would be I to the third power. Now you don't normally see I to the third that much, that's why we made the chart. But what did I to the third equal? -I. So you really have -64. If I to the third is -I times -I, what happens when you multiply two negatives? You get a positive, so the final answer should just be 64i. That's the best you can do. Okay? Let's go to number 2. All right, so I've got I times 2i. That would be 2i squared times -7i. So I'm going to multiply 2 by -7. That's -14. I squared times I, remember if the base is the same, add the exponent, so that's really 2 plus 1 here, so that'd be I to the third. But again, what was I to the third equal to? -I, so I get a -14 times -I. Negative times a negative is a positive, so your answer should just be 14i. All right, let's go to number 3. This is distributive property. So 3i times a -2 should be a -6i. 3i times a 6i should be plus 18, but what's I times I? I squared. Again, what was I squared always equal to? -1. So this is really 18 times -1. So this is really just -18. So I have -6i minus 18, but what should come first, real number or imaginary? Should be the real number. So really you need to put this first, so -18 minus 6i. Real first, then imaginary. All right, there's another one that's cubed. So this is -2i times -2i times -2i. So a -2 times -2, that's 4. 4 times -2, that's a -8. I times I is I to the third. And again, what was I to the third equal to? -I. So this is -8 times -I. Negatives make a positive, so the answer is just 8i. All right. Basic multiplication here, 6 times -4, -24. I times I is I squared. If I squared is -1, that's -24 times -1, so the answer is positive 24. Number 6, -8i squared. There's one like this on the notes. That's -8i times -8i. -8 times -8 is 64. I times I is I squared, but if I squared is -1, then isn't the answer just -64? Best you can do. Okay? All right, number 7. Remember, this is binomial times binomial, so you're going to need to use FOIL. First times first, -3 times -5, that's positive 15. Outside, negative 3 times 7i is minus 21i. Inside, 5i times a negative 5 is minus 25i. Last times last, 5 times 7, that's 35. I times I is I squared. But if I squared is negative 1, this is really a negative 35. These can be combined. You're not multiplying these. You're combining them. A negative 21i and a negative 25i. If you did keep flip change, it'd be negative 21 plus a negative 25. That'd be a minus or a negative 46i. Don't forget the 15. So it looks to me like we have a 15 and a negative 35. Those are the real numbers. So what's 15 minus 35? A positive 15 and a negative 35? Wouldn't that give you a negative 20 minus 46i? That's the best you can do. Real with real, imaginary with imaginary. All right, look at number 8. Same thing. FOIL, negative 40 plus 25i, negative 3i, and a negative 8. That's plus 24i. Negative 3i, positive 5i, that's minus 15i squared. But if I squared is negative 1, that's really a negative 1. What's a negative 15 times a negative 1? It's a positive 15. These can be combined. 25i and 24i, wouldn't that be plus 49i? And then bring down the negative 40. So, where are my real numbers? A negative 40 and a positive 15. So wouldn't that be a negative 25? Plus 49i. That's the best you can do. Real with real, imaginary with imaginary. That's all you can do. Okay? Last two, this is about the extent of what you'll see. Same thing, FOIL, 5 negative 3, that's negative 15. 5 times a minus 7i, that's negative 35i. 5i and a negative 3, that's minus 15i. Those two go together. 5i and a negative 7i, that's minus 35i squared. But if I squared is negative 1, a negative 35 and a negative 1 is a plus 35. These two go together. So negative 15i and a negative 35i should be minus 50i. Don't forget the minus 15. So, real number, 35 minus 15, isn't that 20? Minus 50i. It's the best you can do. Okay? And last one. Same thing. This is FOIL. Negative 7 and a negative 6, that's positive 42. Negative 7 and a negative 6i, that's plus 42i. Those two don't go together. One has I, one doesn't. Negative 4i and a negative 6, that's plus 24i. And a negative 4i and a negative 6i, that's positive 24i squared. But if I squared is equal to negative 1, 24 times negative 1, that's a minus 24. These two go together. 42 plus 24, what's that, 66i? Don't forget the 42. So again, where's your real numbers? 42 minus 24. So if I did 42 minus 24, what's that, 18 plus 66i. That's the best you can do, okay? All right, go check the assignment folder. Make sure you guys get the homework. And again, you can watch this video as many times as you